All right, so a lot to hit here today. I mean, the schedule, obviously, I think the big thing, we get it once a year. Once a year the schedule comes out and we get to, deep dive from an expectation standpoint with new information related to the sequence of games and the Mondays and the Thursdays and the Sundays and the all that thing. Plus the Phils, who obviously last night battled through some tough circumstances. That was kind of a wacky game early. In the end, the Phillies win it in a laugher. So obviously, if you want to react to the Phils, please do it 215-592-9494. But John, let's start schedule and just basic reactions. I mean, my most basic reaction is that I just think it looks a lot easier than last year. I mean, we'll detail the twists and turns, but I mean, just on the surface, I mean, you see a second-place schedule instead of a first-place schedule. You just see circumstantial differences also that are probably just luck. And maybe a little bit just less. Even I think for all of us as viewers and as humans, like you don't have all the holiday games again. Now, look, I don't love the start from the standpoint that the first 2 weeks are unconventional again. I don't like, and this is long known because we've known for a couple months they're going to start in Brazil. Like I find week 1 in Brazil annoying, and I find week 2 at home on Monday Night Football annoying. Like, can we just settle into some Sunday at 1 games, please? But, thereafter, they do start settling into some Sunday at 1 games. And, John, just from an ease versus difficulty standpoint, to me at first glance, it just looks a lot different and I think a lot better than last year.
I think we should all feel really good about this schedule. We're tied for the 10th easiest, and that is, of course, subjective in evaluation. But I just feel like compared to last year, like you said, it's a breath of fresh air in a spring garden at dewy sunrise compared to it was hellacious last season. And now, everything just feels, it's good. Now, the AFC North is rough, and that is a group. They pride themselves on the style, the brand of football that they play. I'm really into seeing how we match up against that because I think we can outbrand their brand, with the run the ball down people's throats idea. I like the way that's going to look against them. And then, of course, the NFC South, boy, last season they were not very good. It felt like it was sort of the youngest and least experienced
Incredibly,
division.
John, that division whooped the Eagles in a playoff game.
Yeah.
So sadly. I hear you, but I also, look at week 4 Tampa.
Baker Mayfield is actually pretty good in his role down there.
It's just like James, when I saw week 4 Tampa, thought 1, all right, pretty good. Thought 2, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's
Baker
what the Eagles
Mayfield's
just.
gonna
So,
be
James, is week 4, who's favored week 4 Eagles at Tampa?
It's going to completely depend on how the first 3 weeks
Well,
play out.
I'm well aware of that, Sherlock.
Yeah. But
Holmes.
I mean, look, the Eagles should be favored. They're more talented than Tampa. They should be better. It's the same thing. And look, that's the funny thing. Last year, they whooped up on Tampa in week 3 last year. They beat the crap out of them on Monday night. One of the best games they played all year, we felt like. And then, obviously, the end of the season went differently.
Yeah, it's really exciting to look at this division from afar. You got young and old quarterback-wise. I know you like to focus on who's under center first. Kirk Cousins was just added. Like you're talking about the Monday night game. We get to see Kirk Cousins come out there and try to be an Atlanta Falcon.
Boy, it feels like he plays the Eagles every year. I know. I mean,
in week 2 on Monday night, it feels like.
It's weird, man.
The Vikings, It's been back to back.
1 or 2.
I think this is the third straight year. Maybe we played Cousins second week on Monday night.
And again, I find it annoying that, first home game and real home game, not home game in Brazil home game, is again, a nighttime Monday night game. Like I find that irritating. But look, let's detail some of this here. And obviously you can react, at 215-592-9494. Let me detail various parts, but John, go ahead.
My big picture, when I look at the schedule, I want to see the division. Of course, it feels like this year the division is us and the Cowboys. And I know the Giants and the Commies got better, but it doesn't feel like they're ready to compete with us.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's a 2-horse race. I'll be surprised if it's not.
It's a double-digit win schedule. It's a 2-horse race. I feel okay saying, hey, when I go down through the list, given the Dallas Cowboys won and us taking one, I think it's fair to say we'll probably split that.
All right, well, let's break it down here. So let's go through the schedule in case you're not aware, and of course you can react to 215-592. 94-94. So let's start with the first 4 games that lead into the bye. So first it starts, as you know, on a Friday night in Brazil, the Eagles and the Green Bay Packers, which really is a fascinating matchup and one that I think not only for us from a local standpoint, but nationally for a primetime national audience on now Friday Night Football, I think will be a really compelling game. All right, after that, as we had referenced, first real home game is versus the Atlanta Falcons. It's a Monday Night Football game. So, that's that reality. Week 3, you're at New Orleans. Now, it's a short week because you're coming off Monday Night Football. So, to me, to a certain extent, it feels like the first 3 weeks are all a little unconventional because, again, short week into week 3. But at least week 3, you do start settling into a 1 o'clock game on that Sunday. And then the Eagles play that Tampa game we'd referenced. And again, that's another Sunday at 1 game. That's into a bye. Now, let's address that bye twofold. First off, the early bye, probably not ideal. I mean, I think our sense typically is let the team get a little bit more beat up, have a bye a little bit later in the year, probably helps the guys more, so you have a disadvantage there. I look at the bye more from the prism, believe it or not, and I went right here immediately through the Phillies prism. So, the reality is Sunday, October 6th is going to be the weekend if the Phillies get a bye, meaning if the Phillies advance to the second round of the playoffs because they win the division and win 100-something games, that's when the Phillies and Braves are going to crank it up, second round. Or
wow,
Phillies.
I didn't even think of that's clever.
Oh, yeah.
Good work by you.
Yeah, now I will say, I wish the bye, into that weekend, let me put it this way. I wish the Phillies were playing while the Eagles aren't playing for, the 6 days prior to that.
Yeah, that's annoying.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt.
It kind of feels like both teams are going to have a bye at the same time if the Phillies win the division. Now, the flip side is, and of course we want the Phillies to win the division, but if they don't, and certainly possible because Atlanta's also very good, then when the Eagles go bye-bye for a week, 2 weeks if you will, that's when the Phillies will start the wild card round. So the Phillies could either take total center stage or we all sit back and preview, a second-round Phillies, not knowing who they're going to play and watching the wild card round in baseball and saying, let's find out who the Phillies are about to play. So take that for what it is. All right, so after the bye, then you get a stretch here. It's not too hard, the next 2. Cleveland at home at the Giants. Okay. Now you get to late October. You're nearing Halloween, and this is when I think you probably have your toughest stretch, but it's not, impossible. At Cincinnati, home versus Jacksonville, and then at the Dallas Cowboys. So as far as, hardest stretch of the season goes, I mean, that's a far cry from last year when it was San Fran and Buffalo and Dallas, and it might have been Dallas again, whatever that ridiculous stretch was. All right, so then they emerge from that. You're in mid-November. Washington at home, and then at the Rams, and then at Baltimore. So that's another tough stretch right there. At Rams, at Baltimore. That's late November and early December. Now, here's a fascinating thing as far as December onward go. From December 1st on, the Eagles play 6 games. 2 pretty big advantages down the stretch. Number 1, of those 6 games, 4 of the 6 are at home. And number 2, post-Thanksgiving, December on, 0 airfare. 0. The 2 road games the Eagles will play at Baltimore and then also eventually at Washington, both will be bus trips. So you're literally not on a plane from late November onward.